The night was quiet, almost too quiet, as Evan Parker walked along the narrow forest trail. He used this path every evening after work, and it always felt calm and safe. But tonight, something felt wrong. The air was colder, the trees were strangely still, and even the insects had gone silent. Evan felt a small shiver run down his back. He kept walking, telling himself it was nothing, just a long day, just a tired mind. But then he heard it, a soft sound, a tiny choking sob. It did not sound like any animal in the forest. Evan stopped, listening. The sound came again, this time clearer. It wasn't a cry of pain. It was a cry of fear. He slowly moved off the trail and pushed aside some bushes. His flashlight shook in his hand as he looked through the dark trees. "Hello," he called. "Is someone there?" No answer. Only another small sob. Evan stepped forward. His heart beat fast now. The trees opened into a small clearing, and that was when he saw her. A small figure sat curled on the ground beside an old fallen log. At first, Evan thought she was a child, maybe lost, maybe hurt. But when he moved his light closer, he froze. She was not human. Her skin was a soft silver color, smooth like metal, but alive. Her eyes glowed a pale blue, bright and full of fear. Her hair fell like threads of white light, glowing faintly in the dark. She hugged her knees, shaking, whispering something in a language Evan had never heard. Evan's breath caught in his throat. He wanted to run. He wanted to hide. But something about her frightened little shape stopped him. She looked up at him. Their eyes met, and he saw no threat, only fear and pain. Slowly, carefully, Evan knelt a few feet away. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The girl blinked, confused, as if trying to understand his words. Then she spoke, her voice weak but clear. "Lost, I am lost, please." Her voice sounded like a mix of a whisper and a song, fragile and trembling. Evan swallowed hard. "You're lost? Are you hurt?" She nodded. She tried to stand but fell again, clutching her arm. There was a deep cut on her skin, but instead of blood, a soft white glow leaked out like light, escaping from a broken glass. Evan had no idea what she was, but she was a child, and she was alone, injured, and terrified. He reached out a hand. Slowly, "Let me help you." She looked at his hand, then back at his face. She hesitated, trembling, but finally placed her small silver fingers into his. Her hand was warm, alive, and shaking. But then, a sharp flash of light shot across the sky above the trees. The girl's eyes widened in terror. She whispered something again, this time faster, desperate. "They are coming. They are coming." Evan looked up. Another bright beam swept across the forest like a giant flashlight in the sky. The sound of a low hum followed it, deep and strange, unlike anything man-made. Something was searching. Something large. Something powerful. Fear rushed through Evan. Who was coming, and why were they looking for her? The girl grabbed his arm, her glowing eyes full of panic. "Please," she begged. "Help me. Hide me." Evan stared at the lights above, at the trembling child beside him, at the dark forest suddenly alive with danger. His old life, simple, safe, normal, stood behind him. In front of him was a choice he had never imagined. Run away, or help the strange girl who wasn't human. Another beam of light swept closer, bright enough to blind. Evan made his choice. He grabbed her hand. "Come on, this way." And together, they ran into the dark woods, with something unseen hunting them from the sky. Evan did not stop running until the strange lights in the sky vanished behind the tall trees. His lungs burned, and his legs felt weak, but he kept pulling the small alien girl along the forest path. Only when he reached the edge of his old cabin did he finally slow down. The girl trembled beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly in the dark. She looked exhausted. Her breathing was shallow and her steps were unsteady. Evan opened his cabin door quickly. "Inside," he whispered. "You'll be safe here." The girl stepped inside, looking around with wide, unsure eyes. She touched the wooden wall with her glowing fingers, as if the simple cabin was the strangest thing she had ever seen. Evan locked the door. Though he doubted a simple lock could stop whatever had been searching for her, the cabin was small, just one room with a bed, a table, and some old camping gear. The lights flickered as he turned them on, like the electricity itself was afraid. The girl stood quietly in the center of the room, holding her injured arm close to her chest. Evan moved closer with slow steps, not wanting to scare her. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She stared at him for a moment, then placed her hand over her chest. "Lira," she said softly. The name sounded like a whispered melody. "I'm Evan," he said. "Levin Parker," she tried to repeat it. "Van Parker." Her voice trembled but carried a strange beauty. Evan noticed the cut on her arm again. The glowing light that leaked from it pulsed like a heartbeat. He grabbed an old first aid kit from a drawer. "I'm going to try to help your arm," he explained. "It might hurt a little." Lira looked at him with true, pure trust, and slowly nodded. Evan cleaned the wound as gently as he could. To his shock, the bright glow dimmed as he worked, and the wound began to close on its own. Not like normal healing, more like the light inside her pulled the skin back together. He whispered to himself, "You really aren't human." Lira heard him. She lowered her eyes. "I am not from here," she said softly. "My home is far, far away." Evan sat back, trying to take in her words. He didn't know anything about aliens except what movies showed. But Lira was real frightened, hurt, and so clearly alone. He asked quietly, "What happened to you? Why were you in the woods?" Lira lifted her glowing eyes to his. "Our ship broke. Fire, noise. We fell from the sky." Her voice cracked as she spoke. "I lost my mother in the crash. I called for her, but she did not answer." Evan felt his chest tighten. She wasn't just an alien, she was a lost child searching for her mother. Lira continued in a trembling whisper, "The men who search for me, they hurt the ones who survive. They want to stop the truth. They do not want anyone to know we came." Evan stared at her. "Men? You mean your people?" She nodded slowly. "Soldiers, they do not help. They silence." She touched her chest. "I ran. That is why they want me." Evan understood now. She wasn't being rescued. She was being hunted. He felt fear crawl up his spine, but it wasn't for himself anymore. It was for her. Suddenly, the lights in the cabin flickered again, brighter this time. The radio on the shelf turned on by itself, hissing with static. Evan jumped to his feet. Lira stiffened, her eyes glowing with alarm. "They are near," she whispered. Evan rushed to the window and peeked outside. The forest was dark, but he felt something out there, something watching. He turned back to Lira. "We can't stay here. If they can track you, they'll find this place soon." Lira closed her eyes and nodded slowly. "I do not want to cause you danger." Evan shook his head. "You're not causing anything. I'm choosing to help you." Lira looked at him with surprise, maybe even hope. Her voice was barely a breath. "Why?" Evan swallowed. "Because you're scared. Because you're alone. And because someone has to stand on your side." Outside, a branch snapped. A shadow moved. Something was out there. Evan grabbed his backpack and held out his hand to Lira once more. "Come on. We need to move." She took his hand without hesitation, and as the two stepped out of the cabin into the cold night, Evan felt something he hadn't felt before. This was no longer just about helping a lost girl. This was the first step into a danger he was not ready for, but could no longer walk away from. The forest felt different when Evan and Lira stepped out of the cabin. It was darker, heavier, almost as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. The air carried a strange charge, like a storm that had not yet arrived, but was waiting just above the clouds. Evan held Lira's hand as they moved quietly down the narrow path behind his cabin. His mind raced with fear, but he kept his voice calm. "Stay close, don't let go of my hand," Lira nodded. Her glowing eyes flicked nervously from shadow to shadow. She felt danger all around, the same way a deer senses a wolf before seeing it. They did not speak for several minutes. Every sound in the forest seemed louder, the crunch of leaves, the whisper of wind, the distant hoot of an owl. Evan could hear Lira breathing fast and shallow. "We need to reach the old road," he whispered. "If we follow it, maybe we can get far away before they find us." But as they walked, something felt wrong. The woods were too quiet. No insects, no birds, no movement except their own. Lira suddenly stopped. Her body tensed, and she lifted her head as if listening to something far away. Her voice came out as a frightened whisper. "They are closer. Many steps, too many." Evan scanned the trees, but he saw nothing. "Are you sure?" "Yes." Her fingers trembled around his. "They track my light. They follow the energy I carry. They do not stop." Evan's throat tightened. "Then we keep moving. Faster." But when they reached the old dirt road, Evan froze in place. Footprints. Strange footprints stretched across the road and led straight toward his cabin. Some were shaped like long claws. Others looked almost human, but wrong, too long, too thin. Like stretched shadows pressed into the mud. They were already here. Evan breathed. Lira touched one of the strange prints. Her glowing fingers hovered above it without touching. Her eyes widened with fear. "These are hunters," she whispered. "Trained to find. Trained to erase. They seek me." Evan stepped back, heart pounding. "Erase? Erase what?" "Life," Lira said quietly. Thunder rumbled far away, though the sky showed no signs of a storm. The air seemed to vibrate for a brief moment, and the ground beneath their feet hummed like a low engine had passed through it. Evan grabbed Lira's shoulder. "We need to hide, far from here." But before he could move, the old radio tower at the edge of the forest flickered with sudden bright light. The metal glowed, then sparked violently. Evan stared, his breath caught in his chest. "What is happening?" Lira looked at the tower with deep sorrow. "They break machines so people cannot call for help. They stop all messages. They close all signals." Her voice grew small. "They always do this before they take the ones they hunt." Evan ran a shaking hand through his hair. "So, no phones, no cars, no help. We're on our own." "Yes," Lira whispered, "but we still have hope." Evan wasn't sure what hope she meant, but he forced himself to keep moving. He could not stop. If he stopped, fear would freeze him. They continued along the road, deeper into the forest, but then they saw something that made Lira gasp and Evan's blood run cold. His neighbor's pickup truck. It was turned on its side, completely crushed, as if something massive had stepped on it. The doors were ripped off, and the metal was twisted like paper. Evan's stomach twisted. "Mr. Dalton," he whispered. "He came by earlier. He must have been looking for me." Lira stepped closer, her eyes glowing softly. She touched the destroyed truck, and a faint shimmer ran across her hand. "I feel fear," she said softly. "Fear that does not stop." He saw the burning crash. They saw him. He was not supposed to see. Evan stumbled back. "They took him, didn't they?" Lira lowered her head. "Yes." Evan felt sick. His neighbor, his friend, was gone. Because of the ship. Because of the hunters. Because of the truth someone wanted to hide. Lira touched his arm gently. "I am sorry. They follow me. They bring danger." Evan looked at her, this trembling child who had lost everything, and he shook his head firmly. "No, this isn't your fault. And we're not giving up. A sudden flash of light flickered through the trees. A distant voice, cold, metallic, echoed. Across the forest, they were not alone. Evan grabbed Lira's hand. "Run!" he whispered urgently. And together, they ran deeper into the darkness, the hunters closing in from every direction. The night grew colder as Evan and Lira fled deeper into the forest. Their breaths came out in soft clouds, and the earth beneath their feet felt damp and uneven. Every tree looked the same in the darkness, tall and quiet like silent watchers. The hunters were somewhere behind them, maybe far, maybe close, but Evan felt their presence like a weight pressing against his back. "We need to keep moving," Evan whispered. "We can't let them catch up." Lira nodded, clutching his hand tightly. Her glowing eyes dimmed with fear, but there was something else too: determination. She walked with small but steady steps, even though she looked tired. Her silver skin shimmered faintly, lighting the path in a soft pale glow. "Do you know where your mother might be?" Evan asked as they moved between thick branches. Lira closed her eyes for a moment, breathing slowly. "I feel her. Not words, but a pull, a memory, a light." She touched her chest. "It calls me from the place where the ship fell." Evan frowned. "The crash zone, that's deeper in the woods, near the old canyon." "Yes," she whispered, "but it is dangerous. My people's machines, fire, broken pieces. And the hunters will wait there." Evan swallowed. He knew she was right. If the ship crashed there, the hunters would stay close, trying to erase all evidence. But if Lira's mother was there, injured or hiding, there was no choice. They had to go. "We'll get there," he said softly. "We'll find her." The forest grew thicker as they walked. Roots wrapped around the ground like dark veins, and fallen branches cracked under their feet. A thin mist began to rise, curling around Evan's legs like cold smoke. After an hour of silent walking, they reached a small clearing filled with broken tree trunks. Evan knelt down and touched one of them. The wood was burned, the edges blackened. "This wasn't lightning," he whispered. Lira stepped beside him. "A piece of the ship fell here." She placed her hand on the charred bark, and a soft blue light spread from her palm. Her eyes widened as if she could see something Evan could not. "What do you see?" he asked. "A memory," she whispered. "Fire, metal breaking, my mother calling my name." Her voice shook. She was alive when she reached this place. Evan felt a tiny spark of hope. "Good, then we're close." They continued moving, following the burned trail deeper into the forest. Every few minutes, Lira would stop and press her hand to a rock or tree, letting the faint memory light guide her. Evan watched her with awe. She was young, but her abilities were powerful, almost like the forest itself was speaking to her. Soon, the trees thinned and the sound of wind echoes grew louder. The ground sloped downward. Evan knew where they were now, the outer edge of the old canyon. He stopped. "Lira, look." She gasped softly. Below them, the canyon stretched wide and deep, and at its heart lay the remains of the alien ship. Half of it was buried in cracked earth, the other half torn open like a wounded beast. Pieces of metal glowed faintly, still alive with alien energy. The ground nearby was burned in strange, swirling patterns. Lira's eyes filled with tears. "Mother, she is there. I feel her light." But Evan's stomach twisted when he saw something else. A cluster of strange black tents stood at the far side of the crash. Tall shapes moved around them, silent, watchful, armed. The hunters. Evan grabbed Lira's shoulder. "We can't walk in openly. They'll see us." Lira wiped her face. "We must go. My mother needs us." Evan looked around, searching for any path that could take them closer without being seen. The only possible route was a narrow rock trail that curled along the canyon wall, half hidden by shadows. "It's dangerous," he said, "but it's the only way." Lira nodded without fear. I trust you." Those words struck him deeply. Evan had no weapons, no plan, no idea how to face alien hunters. But Lira believed in him, and that belief felt like a light guiding him forward. "Stay right behind me," Evan said. Together, they began to move along the narrow ledge inch by inch, shadows hiding them from the hunters below. The journey toward the crash zone had begun. And it would change everything. The narrow ledge shook under their feet as Evan and Lira made their way deeper into the canyon shadow. Far below them, the broken alien ship glowed with faint blue light, like a heart still beating after death. The hunters' camp on the opposite side pulsed with sharp, cold flashes, machines waking, voices murmuring, shadows moving. Evan crouched low, guiding Lira behind a tall rock where the path widened for a moment. He peeked over the edge. The hunters walked in slow circles, scanning the wreck with strange devices that hummed softly. "They're watching every side." Evan whispered, "We have to be careful." Lira nodded but kept her eyes locked on the broken ship. Hope and fear mixed in her glowing eyes. She whispered, "She is alive, I still feel her." Evan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we find her, no matter what." They moved again, climbing down a steep stone section that led directly toward the crash. The air grew warmer as they approached. Sparks of alien energy drifted from broken panels, floating like fireflies in the night. At the base of the canyon, the ship loomed over them like a fallen giant. Its metal skin was cracked open, revealing long hallways twisted with fire marks. The smell of smoke and something unfamiliar, something otherworldly filled the air. Lira moved ahead of Evan, drawn as if by invisible threads. "Mother," she whispered. Evan followed closely, stepping over burnt debris and melted pieces of technology he did not understand. The ship hummed faintly as if it remembered its final moments. Inside the cracked entrance, faint light glowed from deeper within. Lira hurried toward it, her steps small but fearless. They reached a long corridor half collapsed by the crash. A soft cough echoed from the shadows. Evan froze. Lira gasped, then she ran. "Mother!" Through the smoky darkness, an alien woman sat leaning against a broken wall. Her skin was the same silver as Lira's, though dimmer. Her eyes glowed weakly, and her body shook with every breath. She looked up as Lira rushed into her arms. "My Lira," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You found me." Evan stepped back, letting the moment unfold. Lira held her mother tightly, glowing with relief. The woman stroked her daughter's hair with a shaking hand. "I thought I lost you in the fire," she said. Lira shook her head. "I looked for you. I followed your light." The woman smiled weakly. Then her eyes shifted toward Evan. "You helped her," she said softly. "A human. Helping one of us." Evan nodded, unsure what to say. "I couldn't leave her alone." The woman closed her eyes, gathering strength. "Then hear me. What I say now is important. More important than you know." Evan stepped closer. "I'm listening." She lifted a small round object from beside her, a glowing sphere the size of a stone. Its surface shimmered like water holding light. "This holds the truth," she whispered. "My people hide many things. They fear humans will learn what we did, what we planned." She coughed, her body weakening. "The soldiers do not rescue survivors. They erase us. They erase the evidence." Evan felt cold. "Erase, as in kill?" The woman nodded slowly. "Yes, all who know the secret must be silenced." Lira clung to her mother, tears falling. "Like tiny sparks, we must escape together." Her mother placed a trembling hand on her daughter's cheek. "I wish I could. But my body is broken. I cannot leave." Lira shook her head fiercely. "No, I won't leave you here." Evan swallowed hard. The sounds of footsteps echoed faintly outside the ship, hunters moving nearer. The woman pressed the glowing sphere into Evan's hands. You must take her. Protect her. Keep this truth safe. Promise me. Evan looked at the sphere, feeling its pulse like a heartbeat. I promise. A sharp metallic clang echoed from the corridor entrance. The hunters were inside. The woman pushed Lira gently. Go. Now, mother. Lira cried. Go, my light, she whispered. Live, tears streaming, Lira let Evan pull her away. They ran through the smoke-filled corridor as shadows stepped into the room. Behind them, Evan held the glowing sphere tight. And behind them, the crash site lit up again, this time with the cold light of the hunters. Evan and Lira ran through the broken ship as the metallic echoes of the hunters filled the halls behind them. Each step sent sharp sounds bouncing off the twisted walls, turning the whole wreck into a giant warning bell. The lights flickered in weak pulses like a dying heartbeat guiding their path. Faster, Evan whispered, pulling Lira forward, but Lira's steps slowed, her face twisted in pain. She kept looking back toward the room where her mother had stayed. She is alone, Lira whispered, her voice breaking. They will take her. Evan didn't know what to say. He felt the same ache in his chest, the same anger at the hunters, the same helplessness. But he also knew stopping now meant they both would be caught. We can't help her if we're captured, he said gently but firmly. Your mother gave you as the sphere. She trusted us to keep the truth safe. Lira wiped her tears with a trembling hand. Yes, she trusted us. A sudden metallic voice echoed from the far corridor. Search the area. The child is near. Lira flinched. Evan tightened his grip on her hand. Come on. We must move. They slipped through a cracked doorway into the cold night air of the canyon. The sky above them was filled with drifting smoke, glowing faint blue from the damaged ship. The hunters' shadows crept onto the sand floor like silent ghosts. Evan searched for a place to hide. His eyes landed on the tall, rusted watchtower near the canyon edge. It leaned slightly to one side, old from years of storms. But it was tall, hidden by rocks, and had a hatch underneath. That tower, Evan whispered. We can hide there. They sprinted across the canyon floor, stepping behind large boulders and pieces of the ship. Every few seconds, a bright scanner beam swept across the ground. Evan and Lira dropped flat each time, holding their breath. Until the light passed. They reached the tower just as another beam swept the crash site. Inside, Evan said, lifting the hatch. It creaked loudly, too loudly, but they stepped in and closed it softly behind them. Inside, the air smelled like dust and old metal. Chains hung from the ceiling, and broken tools lay scattered on the floor. The tower's walls were thin, old, and not built to stop anything powerful. But it was shelter. For a moment, they simply breathed. Lira sat down, hugging her knees. Her small body shook with shock and grief. Evan knelt beside her, trying to speak but unable to find the right words. She looked at him with dim, glowing eyes. Mother, she knew she would die. Evan nodded. She wanted you safe. She trusted you to carry her light. And she trusted you, Lira whispered. Why? I don't know, Evan said honestly. Maybe she saw something in me. Or maybe she believed that humans can care, even for those who are not like us. A heavy thud hit the tower wall. Both froze. Another thud. Voices, footsteps. They found us, Evan whispered. The hatch rattled as something pulled at it from below. Lira grabbed Evan's arm. They want the sphere, if we give it. They will leave. Evan shook his head. They'll kill us after. You heard your mother. The hatch shook harder. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lira looked at him with desperate eyes. Then what can we do? Evan reached into his bag and pulled out the glowing sphere. It pulsed brighter when it touched the air. As if knowing its moment had come, the hatch slammed again. Human, surrender the memory core. Evan looked at Lira, then at the sphere, the truth. The evidence. The secret her people wanted buried. He suddenly understood. "We don't give it to them," he said softly. "We show it to others." "How?" Lira whispered. Evan took a deep breath. "By activating it. By sending its message to the sky." Lira stared. "But if you do that, they will come inside. They will kill you." "Yes," he said. "But you'll escape." Tears filled her eyes. "I cannot leave you." Evan placed the sphere into her hands, but kept one hand on it too. "You must. Your mother died for this truth. If someone has to stand and hold the line, I will." The hatch tore open with a deafening crack. Evan pressed his palm against the sphere. "Run when it opens," he whispered to Lira. "Don't look back." The sphere glowed bright, powerful, alive. It rose into the air and exploded into a blazing column of light that shot into the sky. The hunters screamed. The tower shook. The truth had been sent. Evan stood in front of the opening, blocking the hunters from reaching Lira. She whispered his name with breaking heart, and Evan Parker made his final choice, to save her, no matter the cost. The watchtower burned with white light as the sphere exploded into the sky. The hunters stumbled back, shields rising, alarms echoing in sharp metallic screams. Evan felt the ground shake under his feet. His ears rang, and the air hummed with power so strong it made his bones vibrate. "Lira!" he shouted, keeping himself between her and the hunters. The girl stared at the glowing beam rising through the roof, lighting the night like a second moon. Tears streamed from her bright eyes. She knew what Evan had done. He had made his choice, and that choice was her life over his. "Go," he said again, louder this time. The opening in the back of the tower, the small emergency hatch shook. As debris fell, she ran to it, climbing through just as the hunters regained their balance. "Stop the human," one of them growled, voice cold as frozen metal. They rushed forward. Evan grabbed a fallen metal bar and swung it, blocking the narrow entrance at the tower's front. He wasn't strong enough, he wasn't trained, but he held on. He had to. Every second he bought meant another second for Lira to escape. The lead hunter shoved through. Metal claws slashed the air inches from Evan's face. He ducked, stumbled, but did not fall. He raised the bar again. The tower shook violently as one hunter struck the old support beam. A loud crack echoed through the room. Evan had only one thought left. Please let her get away. The world turned white. Then silent. Then dark. Evan woke on cold sand. The canyon was quiet. The ship, the tower, the hunters gone. Vanished, as if erased by a giant hand. The ground was scorched with bright blue patterns, like lightning had kissed the earth. Evan tried to stand but fell back to his knees. His head throbbed, his body ached. But he was alive. A group of humans in protective suits stood nearby. They looked at him with confusion and fear. "Sir?" one of them asked carefully. "Are you the one who sent the SOS blast? What happened?" "Here." Evan opened his mouth, but no words came. He saw nothing that could prove his story. No ship, no hunters, no alien metal, no glowing trail. Nothing but burnt sand, he whispered. "A girl. I was helping a girl." But the rescuers only exchanged puzzled looks. They took him to town, asked him questions he couldn't answer. Files were opened. Officials came. Scientists asked if he had hit his head. News reporters wanted to know why his story had no evidence. Days passed. Then weeks. People grew tired of hearing him. Evan's home had been destroyed. His job was gone. His friends looked at him with pity now, whispering things he couldn't quite hear. And through all of it he kept wondering, was she safe? One cold evening, as Evan sat on the broken steps of what used to be his cabin, a soft light appeared between the trees. At first he thought it was a flashlight from some hiker, but then he saw her. Lira. She stood at the forest's edge, glowing softly, her silver skin brighter than ever. She looked older somehow, not in age but in strength. Like she carried more light inside her now. Evan stood slowly. "Lira, you're alive." She nodded and stepped closer. Her voice was soft, warm. "I am safe because of you." Evan tried to speak, but emotion closed his throat. Lira continued. "My mother's message reached far. Our people came. The hunters cannot hide the truth anymore." She placed her glowing hand over his heart. "You lost much," she whispered, "but you gave me everything. My life, my future, my voice." Evan blinked away tears. "I'd do it again." Lira smiled a small, sad smile. "I cannot stay. My world calls me now. But remember this, your name will be spoken far beyond Earth. In my home, you are a hero." A soft wind stirred as her body began to glow brighter. "Goodbye, Evan Parker," she whispered. "Thank you for choosing me." And then she rose into the air, turning into a streak of silver light that joined the stars above. Evan stood alone under the dark sky. He had saved a child. He had changed a world he would never see. And he had lost the life he once knew, but gained something far greater, a legacy written in the stars.